Kia ora koutou, now mai, haere mai, hello and welcome to Flourishing Through Positive Education. My name is Natalie Calder and I am the founder of Being Education, Learning to Flourish, as well as the author of the Classroom Connections project. My goal in life is to help school teachers transcend rising adolescent mental health rates by providing scientifically proven, time-effective well-being techniques and tools for the classroom. I wish for a future where children can realise their unlimited potentials and abilities. My goal is to inspire education to include learning about who we are being rather than just what we are doing in order to make better decisions. Firstly, I just want to again say thank you so much for being with me today. It is educators like you that are architects for a brighter and kinder future, educators that care and that want to make a real difference. So again, thank you. You are making a difference already. The rates of depression and anxiety are rising exponentially each year for our children, and you have chosen to front up to make a difference. So ka pai, thank you to you. So last week we looked a little bit, or a lot, at the alarming statistics of youth mental health rates around the world. And we looked a little bit at positive psychology and how it can provide students with practical tools and techniques that are going to help them in those inevitable tough times ahead. So it's really, I really want to, again, the other thing I want to thank you for is being a bit of a leader for wellbeing in your school. It really does take all of us, but sometimes it might just be you. And you know what? Even if it is just you in your school that's kind of trying to drive well-being and drive change in education, you are making a difference. A couple of things, a couple of statistics from the recent Now We Are 12 report that is done here in New Zealand showed that school engagement is directly related to the relationship that the child has with teachers. I have shared with you over the last few videos and at different times that I had a bit of a tough time as a child. I was bullied quite a lot, just various different things that went on in my life that I just found myself going off the rails. By the time I went to high school, I was drinking alcohol at times. I thought it was cool and smoked cigarettes and just wasn't working to the best of my ability. I've always been quite, I always did do very well educationally, but I just didn't actually care. I never applied myself. I didn't like school, had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. So I was the classic kind of example of someone that had I got these tools a bit earlier, I believe that had I learnt a bit more about myself, had I got a bit more self-confidence, then I could have really changed, particularly my high school years and potentially what had happened after that. So I feel really passionate that we can make a difference. Because for me, I just felt insecure, unhappy, and I had no self-confidence. But there's no reason for us to be like that anymore. In my mid-30s, I think I said last time, I dealt with that through my own study. I really hit rock bottom and needed to work out a way to make myself happier or to help myself to be happier. And so through that practice, what I actually learned was that an absence of illness doesn't automatically bring happiness. You know, just because we're not ill doesn't mean that we're necessarily happy. We're not flourishing in life just because we don't have an illness. My goal is to help children, was to help children to flourish in order to sort of build a society where we can all flourish. I think I stated last time that Martin Seligman's goal is for that more than 51% of the population to be flourishing by 2050. And again, I think that's a really noble cause. I think that it's one of those things that happiness builds happiness, or flourishing builds flourishing. We see the people around us doing things that make them happier, and we begin to wonder, what is it they're doing? So just going back to, you might be the only person in your school or in your family or whatever that's perhaps interested in this, or is perhaps starting to do some practices or introduce practices into your classroom. But because inevitably changes are going to be seen by people around you, you will find that people will start to go, hey, what is it that they're doing? Look at how much happier they are. Look at how these children are communicating well with each other. Look at all these things. And it is noticed, and you will find that it will only build and build and build. So you might well find, if you're not already, that you may be the one that is the sort of the well-being guru in your school. So I just wanted to share that I just recently, or I am at the moment, reading a book called Build the Life You Want, that is written by Arthur C. Brooks and Oprah Winfrey. And Arthur has been studying happiness for many, many years. He's based in a university in the USA. And a bit that really stuck out for me, and I wanted to share with you today, was a quote from there which says, "Your emotions are only signals, and you get to decide how you'll respond to them." And I think that that's really, first, really important to understand, but secondly, a really cool lesson for us to take into our classrooms. And I think it's not something that potentially children might understand straight away, but I think there's some real power in introducing that idea to children. There's no illusion that bad things won't happen. And we need to have those bad emotions to know that something isn't quite right. The emotions are there to protect us. Something's not quite right. We're not quite happy. So what actually happens is that we use our limbic brain automatically reacts to something that's kind of not, or whatever's happening around us. Then we learn to make a choice using our prefrontal cortex on how we react to that. So detection is the first thing, and that's just when something happens. The reaction, which is the emotion, so for example, something might happen and you might feel fearful, so your heart might start pounding, something like that. Then our brain needs to move into our prefrontal cortex to actually make a decision about what they're going to do. So it's that learning to slow down the movement from where we feel the emotion and it's limbic, and we might, without thinking, we might go straight forward and punch the person that's upset us, or scream or react. Whereas it's about learning. Metacognition is about learning to move that emotion from the limbic to the prefrontal cortex and make a decision that's a bit more positive or a bit more thoughtful how we react to things. So I really enjoying that book, and I do. If anyone, if you're into those sorts of things, I really would recommend getting that. I booked that, got that on Fishbone, but I think they're available. Oh, actually no, I got it at the local Paper Plus. So definitely recommend reading that. So that was Build the Life You Want by Arthur C. Brooks and Oprah Winfrey. Okay, so getting back to positive psychology, the interventions, which is really just a word for the activities, are aimed at, within positive psychology, are aimed at creating and sustaining positive feelings, behaviours or cognitions or thoughts. So as we learn more about ourselves, we build confidence and self-esteem. As we learn more about ourselves and our interactions with others, we can create strong positive relationships. As we learn more about ourselves and our emotions, we learn to take control of the direction our life is taking. We understand, or we can make choices that are more positive. So there's been heaps and heaps of studies over the years on just the impact of positive psychology, but just one I wanted to look at was by Sin and Lyubomirsky. I'm sorry if I haven't said that right, Lyubomirsky, it was in 2009, and they analysed 51 different sort of common positive psychology interventions. There was a broad array of topics, so gratitude, hope, kindness, mindfulness, goal attainment, and what they found was that it actually, in fact, does make a positive impact on well-being, as well as reducing depressive symptoms. So it does make a difference. And for me, I think that just is really exciting in the fact that we have children in our care generally, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. So I think it's really important that we take the opportunity to not just focus on the academics. Academics are of course important, but also make the most of this perfect opportunity to provide them with these life tools. And actually, when you look at it, the research tells us that when children do feel more well, more safe, more secure, more happy, they actually get better academic success anyway. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so there's loads of evidence also that no matter what business you're in, no matter what kind of work you do in the world, the idea of a positive institution, or the idea of bringing this positive psychology, these things like optimism and character strengths and gratitude and kindness into the work environment, no matter what that environment may be, has really profound benefits for all of the people in that environment. So schools are absolutely no different, and I guess maybe even more so in the fact that children are so open. I've found them to be so open to these ideas. They enjoy learning about each other. They enjoy learning about themselves. So I think it just gives us that real perfect opportunity to begin looking at what we can do. So positive education itself came out of positive psychology. It actually was born, if you can call it that, in 2008 when Professor Marty Seligman travelled to Australia. He travelled to Geelong Grammar and he spent 6 months working with the teachers there. And what they did is they melded the idea of best practice teaching with positive psychology. And all of the teachers were trained in positive psychology techniques. They all sort of implemented them into their own lives. They all saw the amazing effects that they were getting from these new sort of interventions. And then that was then rolled out into the school. Definitely recommend looking a bit more into that if you're interested. They have an amazing, there's a book that's been written about that, and there's also an amazing group of educators that I'm actually part of. It's if you look that up on their website, you can join in. We meet once a month and just talk about different things people around the world are doing, all sorts of cool things. So I definitely recommend going to the Geelong Grammar School website and checking out what they have. And if you can't find it, I'd love, just email me and I can send you through any info. Here in New Zealand, we had the Christchurch earthquakes quite some time ago now, but it became, as Christchurch was picking itself up and moving forward, and that there was a bit of research done and a bit of work done by the NZIWR, New Zealand Institute of Wellbeing and Resilience, who do some amazing work here. They've done a wee bit of work with different schools, setting up some interventions and professional development for teachers around positive psychology. And what they've found is that in an education setting, improved levels of wellbeing have been shown to be associated with better academic results, higher levels of academic engagement and participation, higher retention rates, stronger social and emotional skills, higher levels of optimism, and fewer symptoms of depression. So I think you'll agree with outcomes like that. I think it's just overwhelming evidence to show that I think it's really important that we at least take a look at this and how we can perhaps utilise this into our own classrooms and our own environments. I do know from my own experience that not everyone is going to be open straight away to changing the way they do things or to bringing these sorts of topics into class. I know that once upon a time it was very much considered a parental thing, something that you learn about at home rather than at school. But I think, like I said in the last video, what we've been doing isn't working. When we look at our rates of mental illness in the world, and we see that half of the children in the world are suffering from anxiety or depression or another related illness, we do need to change something. And I do believe that we are in the perfect place as educators. So I understand that you might come up against people that won't necessarily be on the same page as you, and that's okay. You know, I do urge you to continue. You're obviously interested in positive education, you're interested in being a champion for the children in your care. There are plenty of people to reach out to if you need to. I would love to form a bit of a community here. There are plenty of us that are doing things. So definitely put your hand out with an email or on Facebook or Instagram. Give us a yell and definitely we can support each other. I've designed a free PDF called 6 Simple Ways to Classroom Wellbeing, which combines some of the leading science-based interventions, and I've packaged them up into easy use lesson plans for children because many of the interventions are based at adults, which of course it's easier to sort of do the research on adults. But I have packaged them up into easy to use lesson plans, and you can utilise them straight away as you head into your class in 2024. So I do believe that these, and I know from using these in my own classroom for many years, that these will help students to get to know themselves better. It helps them to build confidence and self-esteem, and it really does help to focus on building more positive relationships, and that's possibly something that you can really utilise as the year starts and you're getting to all know each other and get into your own little groove of your classroom. So if you're interested in looking at that, that is at my website, www.beingeducation.co.nz. I'd love to see you there. Okay, and before I go, for those of you that are wellbeing leaders in your school, or even if you're teachers that are on your own and sort of leading the charge, there's a few things that I just have put down here that I really recommend doing over the next little while just to support yourself on your journey. So there's 2 books there, The Educator's Guide to Whole School Wellbeing, which is by the New Zealand Institute of Wellbeing and Resilience, and or reading the Geelong Grammar Positive Education book, which is the Geelong Grammar School Journey, and it gives you a lot of ideas on the sorts of things that you might want to look at, or a bit of a process to go through. Another idea is meeting with your SLT or principal, discussing a wellbeing team, maybe looking at getting a bit of a benchmark survey done amongst staff or amongst children, just seeing, a bit of a measure of where people are at now and then making some goals about where you'd like to be by the end of the year. Begin trialling those wellbeing lessons in your own class if you haven't already, and again, head to my website and download that PDFs with some new ideas on how you can do that. Maybe beginning to talk about wellbeing in the staff room. You'll get a bit of a gauge on who's interested and perhaps people that could join you in your mission. It is something that's, things are always easier with a friend, and it is a big journey. So particularly if you're just at the start. So sort of mentioning things in the staff room and getting a bit of a gauge. You may already know a couple of people in the staff that you think, and you may even just want to go and tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, this is what I've been learning about, would you like to learn a little bit with me, or something like that. Loads of really good, well, not loads, but there's a few good podcasts around. The Positive Education podcast is one, but if you hop onto Apple or Spotify or whatever you listen to, you'll find some really good. A lot of those are high school based, but they really do give you some good ideas of things you can do, they have interviews with people that you can sort of look up and find out a bit more about. They will give you some good interventions and things, and they also, a lot of the podcasts seem to be about, what different steps leadership and things took when they were trying to implement wellbeing into their school. And last but not least, like I said before, reach out. I'd love to hear you. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to support you in this journey. I think we have the ability to really make a difference, and I think that we can only do that when we work together. And obviously you're a like-minded person, so if you would like to, check me out on Facebook, Instagram, email me. My email's on the website, and together let's make a difference for those children in our care. Thank you, and we'll see you again next week. Ka kite.